How we doing out there, everybody on YouTube? I'm Dylan, you're watching Prehistoric Companions, and this here is Danger Noodle. He is a pied male ball python. I've actually just started, this is my first time breeding ball pythons this year. I attempted last year, didn't have much success. I had one female that's breeding size. I'll show you guys here a little later in the video, and I tried to pair her with a banana ball python that I have. Vegeta is his name. He's my first ball python ever. Super cool guy. His colors, he's brilliant. He's banana. He's got GHI, stands for gotta have it. He's pastel, and he's also heterozygous for the hypomelanistic gene. Heterozygous essentially means that he isn't visually displaying a particular genetic mutation, but he carries a copy of it. It's like albinos, animals or creatures that have red eyes and a reduced or lack amount of melanin in the skin. This here is actually a visual recessive animal. As you can see, I'll bring a little closer here. You can see these white patches on him. So he's a visual pied, like the albino gene. Both parents have to have a copy, or both parents have to be visually expressing that color mutation for it to be passed on to the offspring. I'll talk a little bit more about all that cool genetic stuff a little bit more here later in the video. I want to take you guys along today, show you kind of what's been going on here in the reptile room. I feel like I've gotten a little astray from what my YouTube channel is supposed to be about, and it's all reptiles. I've been doing kind of a lot of different content lately, so I figured today we might as well hang out here in the reptile room, take care of some of the specimens and such that I have going on here. I've also really got to figure out the lighting situation in here. I've had to string up some different sort of apparatuses. It's a work in progress. Everything that I do is always improving. I'm always trying to find out a way to try and make things better, but you know, day by day, take things day by day. With all that being said, let's go ahead and roll the intro, and I'll see you guys here momentarily. Okay, welcome back. So like I said, this is Danger Noodle, and he's probably almost 2 years old. I got him as a tiny little baby. He was so small, and now he's like, he's a big guy now. I mean, this guy, a lot of people say that pieds are commonly pretty fussy eaters when it comes to ball pythons. But let me tell you, this guy, he destroys food. He loves food. He doesn't hesitate. Every time I have a nice unthawed rat, I feed all of my animals frozen thawed. I don't do live feed, but if I did have a specimen in my collection that did require that, I would do my best to absolutely provide that for them. This guy, he don't mind. He takes food no matter which way it's given to him. I always make sure that the prey that I'm offering him is about as thick as the thickest part of the animal. That's a good rule of thumb when we're talking specifically about ball pythons and kind of probably most snakes. I couldn't breed this guy last year because he wasn't quite old enough. And last year, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I did try to attempt to breed my ball pythons. At the time, I only had really one adult male, one adult female. This guy was nowhere near breeding size. Your males need to be at least 500 grams in body weight. Females need to be at least 1,500 grams in body weight for them to successfully breed and be mature enough to actually do that and produce viable eggs and viable offspring. So now that this guy's got some appropriate size on him, I figured, you know, let him have a go at it. So the pairing that I'm doing, he's visual pied. He's got 2 copies of the pied mutation, one from his mom, one from his dad. So he's visually expressing that gene with these white patches on him. It's super beautiful. I love pieds. I'm definitely a pied guy. Then the female that I'm pairing him with is just a single gene animal. She is a citrus pastel female ball python. And with this particular combination, so say she lays 6 eggs for me, okay? That's about a pretty common, I think, clutch size for ball pythons. I think the biggest clutch size I've ever heard of them having is about 16, maybe 18 eggs, but most commonly around 6 to 8, maybe 10 eggs, okay? So half of the babies, statistically or proportionally, are going to be a visual pastel, because pastel is a codominant mutation. But now, since this pied here, this pied male is recessive and the female doesn't have any genetic code of that mutation that the pied has, all of the babies are going to receive one copy from the dad here, so they'll be a carrier of the pied mutation, but they won't be visually expressing it like this male here. So half of the babies will be pastel, and then the other half will be common, wild type, no genetic mutation. They'll kind of just look like a pretty standard, normal looking ball python. Nothing real crazy, but all the babies will have one genetic code of the pied mutation. So if I have any female pastel het pieds, I'm definitely going to hold those back and grow those up. They take about 3 to 4 years to mature before they're able to breed themselves, and use those for future projects. I have quite the rack system set up here, not as extravagant as a lot of breeders out there, but it's a 70-10 ARS caging hybrid rack. There's 10 tubs tall. I'll show you guys that here momentarily. I've only got 4 spots filled up and 6 more to go, so I definitely would like to start investing in other genes that I'd like to work with and get this rack all filled up and start hopefully producing more babies. I definitely need more adult females, because adult females are the ones that are going to lay eggs, and a single male can service multiple females. So I just got to be kind of careful about what genes and mutations I want to work with. Just gorgeous. There's no other species of reptile that quite has the color palette that this species does. So definitely more ball pythons. The only downfall that I've discovered is they are actually very fussy eaters. Like I said, I have a banana ball python, and he has been the most picky thing ever. He's gone off of food for like 4 or 5 months before. He recently just did it again, not for that long, but he hasn't eaten in about 2.5 months actually, and he finally just took a meal on Wednesday, so I'm real happy about that. But still, he doesn't quite have the body condition or desire to mate with the female, and at this point I don't really see it being a very beneficial thing for me wanting to try and pair him with my female as well, and trying to attempt to dual sire the female. Dual sire essentially means breeding this male and that male with one female, and seeing if maybe both males will be able to produce viable offspring out of that one female. I think just with the various different genetic mutations happening there, it might get a little confusing and hard to tell the babies apart, especially since this is a heterozygous. Essentially, if I end up with different types of snakes and I don't know if they're all the babies are going to actually carry a copy of the heterozygous pied mutation, I'd have to sell the babies, the ones that I'm not going to hold back, essentially, as possible het pieds. So I think I'm just going to stick with this pairing, because he's been taking to my female. I've had 2 successful tail locks already, so I'll continue pairing him with the female until she gets real gravid, real thick around her midsection, and she goes off a feed and she's ready to lay eggs, and I'll give her a year off, and then hopefully in the coming years I'll acquire maybe a really cool powerhouse male that has genes that I really want to work with and breed her in the future. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive a little bit more in what's happening here. Let's definitely got to hook up my roach rack, all of my feeders with some tasty, nutritious stuff. I can show you guys a little bit more specifically what's happening in here, some of the equipment that I use to regulate the environment in here and keep all my animals nice and cozy. So finally, it's been probably about a month and a half, or to be honest, probably maybe even 2 months since this guy, Vegeta, he's a banana, pastel, GHI, head hypo, ball python. He's actually one of my first snakes ever. And this guy has finally taken a meal. He's been pretty fussy lately. He did just shed last week, So it probably would explain why he didn't want to eat last time I tried to feed him. But fortunately this time he decided, yeah, I'm kind of hungry, give me some food. Yep, the sign says it all. This is my man cave. Enter at your own risk, because you know you might get choked out. Got a nice calendar so I can keep track of feeding schedules. Of course, I haven't filled any of this December month out. I got to do that. But here is my ARS 7010 hybrid rack that I use for my ball pythons. Currently, I have only 4 snakes in here, including my blood python, my newest addition, Kona. If I open up this tub here, and I don't know if you guys can see him, it's a male, and he does a pretty good job of camouflaging. He is actually right in here. So he's kind of burrowed a little bit into this coconut husk. Pretty good substrate, holds onto humidity really well. Snakes really need humidity. They don't really like dry environments. Depends on what species you're working with, but you really have to do lots of research to see what their particular environmental circumstances are. This species typically likes about 55 to 60% humidity consistently, and when they're shedding, you gotta bump it up a little bit to help them with that process. But this is Kona, the Sumatran shorttail or blood python. I take this guy out here. Super beautiful guy, look at this. It's got a pretty nice personality, and he's grown to actually really love food. So if I pull the tub out a little bit more, I do have a little bit of hides and extra things. I did have to put a couple extra layers back here where the hot spot is of different materials to help reduce the temperatures, because this whole rack system I have set to about 90 degrees Fahrenheit for the ball pythons, but I had to layer up some PVC sheeting back here to kind of lower those temperatures, because this species doesn't like those warmer temperatures. They actually prefer a little bit cooler environment. So if I take my therm temperature gun, this is a really helpful tool if you're keeping reptiles. Essentially point the laser and it'll tell you, see the wall's 80 degrees, so I keep it about 80 degrees ambient temperature in here at all times. That's comfortable for all of the species living in here. And I can check the temperatures in here. Let's see, that's about a little cooler on this end, interesting. 77. If I bring it over to the hot end, it's reading at about 85 degrees. So that's actually pretty good for this species. Give or take around those parameters is what you want. Going down a tier, we got the female. This is Cleo. So she's breeding. She's actually been hanging out a lot on the cool end. You can tell that the females especially are in breeding mode when we see a lot of bowl wrapping. So she's been on the cool end. She's been wrapping around her water bowl to maintain a little bit cooler body temperature. She doesn't really hang out at the very back of her tub, but nonetheless, this citrus pastel female, she's more yellow and she's pretty bright in comparison to what a normal wild type looks like. Hi girl, you're so beautiful. You see that tongue flicking? You see those heat pits on her face? That's all those little holes on her face. That's what she uses to detect prey. They essentially heat pits, yeah, they sense heat, and that lets her know exactly where a nice tasty warm rat is. Going down another tier, this is Vegeta, my picky guy here. Hey buddy. Then finally in the bottom I have my guy Danger Noodle. This guy's currently breeding with Cleo, my citrus pastel female. All these guys love coconut fiber. It kind of really smells like a rainforest in here with this substrate, aside from when they poop. When I walk in here, I can definitely tell right away. I'm like, yeah, one of the snakes did the dirty. So I do my best to definitely get them cleaned up right away. Always have clean substrate, always have clean water. So this species typically really love dark spots where they feel safe and secure. Eventually, I'm definitely going to hook them up with larger environments, get them out of these kind of smaller size tubs and get them into maybe get them into a nice vision cage. So in here we got Linguini, my boa, Central American boa. Kind of see her hanging out back there. She always loves chilling out on the rocks. Humidity's a little low, gotta bump that up, but temperatures are looking good. Got a high white Pueblo milk snake, kind of opposite conditions in here. Humidity's a little too high, so I gotta adjust that, but temperatures are okay. Down here, I just put this tank together for my strawberry apricot Pac-Man frog. Kind of see I don't know if this is a male or female yet. I haven't quite checked. It's always buried in here, but this thing devours food, loves food. And here I have a children's python. This species actually kind of tends to hide a lot. I don't see it too much except for late at night or early morning when it's out exploring. It just shed for me recently, so it's putting on some size. It is growing, but this is the second smallest species of python living in here. So actually a pretty good species for beginner snake keepers. Here's my leopard gecko in here. She is hiding, I believe, in her cage. I did have someone just recently comment on one of my videos that if the gecko somehow defecates inside the cave, how the heck do you clean it? Essentially, if she ain't in there, I just spray out her caves with some veterinary grade cleaner. So I have a toilet brush, or like a long brush with some firm bristles that I use specifically and solely for this tank, where I'll spray veterinary grade cleaner in here in those caves and stick the brush in there and scrub out real good. It seems to do the job pretty well, but fortunately she always goes in the same spot. She always goes right here in the corner. I got some stuff that I need to clean up right there. So she's definitely picked a spot where she likes to handle her business, and that's it. And then she's got lots of places where she likes to explore, lots of different caves, human hide, different hides and places for her to navigate. And I love using these Accurite temperature gauges. Something's wrong with the temperature portion on that, but about 25% humidity, and I think that's registering about 77 degrees. Heat rises, so it's a little cooler down here, but that's what these leopard geckos typically will need. They'll need about 75 degrees on the cool end and a 90 degree hot spot. So inside of the cave it's about 90 degrees. I have a heat pad with a thermostat underneath the tank here, regulating the temperatures inside her cave so she stays nice and warm. Here's my bug rack. I have subadult dubia roaches in here. I have all my feeders here, my adult dubias in both of those bottom racks there. So here in a couple more days I'll go ahead and probably start cleaning out these tubs. I'll typically clean them out real good, take all the roaches, put them in a separate bin, and get veterinary grade cleaner, spray those out real good, wipe them down, clean environment, get rid of all of the nasty poop and stuff, and then give them fresh food. I give them fresh food, fruits and veggies several times a week so that they're highly nutritious for my animals. Always gotta make sure that you have fresh, clean water. I always use spring water for these guys. Gotta have plenty of paper towels on handy. I go through tons of these. I have this 40-gallon Exoterra tank that I'll eventually convert into a bioactive tank, probably for one of my ball pythons or the boa or such. Live plants, isopods, springtails cleanup crew to regulate the environment in here, but I'm just using it right now to cultivate different tropical plants, pothos, sigonium, different tropical plants that I could use in this future bioactive tank. Then of course can't forget about my boy Philo here. He's just chilling in his little bed that I got him off of Amazon. This guy's doing great. Ever since he had surgery, I had to amputate his tail because he did develop tail rot. He's about 10 and a half years old approaching, and if I had to get rid of everything in my collection, only keep one specimen, I'd definitely keep him. He is my absolute favorite. He's got a great personality. He's just amazing in all which ways. Everything that you could ever want out of a bearded dragon. So he's just cozy in his bed. He kind of just watches me putt around in here and do my thing, and he just chills. He just watches. So over here I have a fan to kind of circulate different airflow in here. Helps even kind of maintain some of the ambient air temperatures in here, but I also have an air filter. Not that the air quality is poor in here or where I live, but just so that I always have like kind of nice, fresh, clean air in here. I'll usually turn that on, fan on, and then I'll let that circulate for about 8 hours a day. Here I have a radiant heater, so this really helps keep the room at a consistent temperature. This thing works like a beast. I love this thing. Yeah, like I said, works great, does exactly what I need to in regulating the temperatures and in the environment, everything that I need to keep all of my specimens nice and healthy and cozy. Okay, and here I have some butternut squash, I have a grapefruit, an apple, and I'm trying this roach and cricket food. So we're gonna go ahead and whip all this stuff up and chop it up and feed this stuff to the roaches so they're nice and gut loaded and highly nutritious for my animals. So I'm going to at least see if Cleo is hungry. I do have a small rat here for her. It's not the appropriate prey size item, but if she doesn't want it, then maybe I could give this to one of the males and see if they'll take it so that nothing goes to waste. So let's see if she's hungry. Hey girl, you want some food? Oh, maybe. Probably. Oh, nice. Yep, good strike. Look how beautiful she is. Is that not just a gorgeous animal? Those patterns and the contrast. And part of the fun part of keeping reptiles is the interesting feeding responses. Well, hey, that's a wrap for today's video. I don't want to make this video too long. I respect your guys' time, and I don't want to keep you guys on YouTube all day long because I'm sure you got other things that you got to be doing with your time and your day. So thank you so much for stopping by and just, checking me out and see what I have going on here with me and my animals, me and Philo here. Greatly appreciate you. So we want to wish you guys a happy holiday, safe holidays. If it's snowing in your area, please be careful driving out there. Have a safe week. And we certainly hope to see you in the next episode, okay? So again, stay safe, happy holidays, appreciate you guys. See you in the next one, alright? Take it easy now. Peace.